Mario Party 6 is a brilliant party game. It combines a lot of the series' best ideas with new, interesting innovations to create a cohesive and fun game that is sure to provide a fun experience. So, Mario Party 7 has the tough task of following Mario Party 6 up, while also being the fourth and final Mario Party game on the Gamecube. Is Mario Party 7 a continuation of these brilliant ideas in Mario Party 6, or does it fall flat? Well, welcome back to Mark's Rec Room, where today we're talking about Mario Party 7, the one that tries new things. At this time, it seems like critics and fans felt like Mario Party was stagnating. However, I personally would argue that while Mario Party 7 does look like Mario Party 6.5 at first glance, it also modified a ton of things that fundamentally changed the experience that makes this game a much more significant departure from past entries than it initially appears. Unfortunately, Boo Huts are fully gone again, and although they are somewhat succeeded by the pink Boo Orb, I don't think that these were mutually exclusive, and it's a bummer to see the Boo Hut completely disappear. Battle minigames and microphone minigames can still occur at random, with a chance of the new 4-player microphone minigames appearing as well, which we'll talk about more once we get to the minigame section. Strangely, duels also function a bit differently than in previous games. In previous games, players would put up either coins or a star in a duel and force their opponent to do the same, allowing players to determine the stakes of a duel before entering it. This was fun, it made the duels tense and provided skilled players with the ability to take coins and stars from others with brute force. Mario Party 7 decides to change this for some arbitrary reason. When a duel is initiated, the plaintiff will choose their opponent and the minigame will be played with no set stakes. Once the minigame is won, the victor will spin the slot of stupendousness and get a random prize from their opponent. This could be 10 coins, half of the loser's coins, all of the loser's coins, 1 star, or 2 stars. There is also the potential that the winner could straight up win nothing, which just means that the past few minutes were simply a waste of the player's time. This change baffles me. There was nothing wrong with the dueling mechanics of the previous games. Creating set stakes before the minigame increased the intensity while players are actually playing the minigame, and with those stakes removed, the outcome of the duel becomes less interesting when players don't even know what they'll gain from the minigame, if they even gain anything at all. This oversimplification of duels really waters down one of the most fun and skill-intensive parts of Mario Party. Mario Party 7 also removes the Round of Miracles event arbitrarily. While some players might be glad to have Chance Time gone, I personally miss it. Chance Time is such a great event that players can use to throw a wrench into their friends' plans and even potentially their own, and removing this just makes it feel like something's missing from Mario Party 7. This game does add 2 new spaces, the Mike space and the Koopa Kid space. Well, the Koopa Kid space is really just an orb that is thrown onto the board at the start of the game and when a Koopa Kid orb gets randomly handed out to a player. However, just like other orbs, it can be replaced by player orbs, so you can just straight up remove these with your own orbs if you wanted to. The Koopa Kid space can do a variety of things that used to be relegated to Bowser spaces, like Bowser Revolutions and Bowser Shuffles, but he can also shuffle players' orbs, give the player a cursed mushroom, or swap their coins with another player. I honestly think that the Koopa Kid space is neat, although maybe a little bit unnecessary. I like all of the events that can occur here, and while this could have just been worked into regular Bowser spaces, I like them. They're just not super threatening since players can remove them. The other new space is the Mic space. So Mario Party 7 was also paired with the GameCube microphone just like its predecessor, although here it's included on the board on its own designated space alongside the mic minigames. If you have the mic turned off, Toadsworth will tell you to turn on the mic and leave. If you have the mic turned on, Toadsworth will come and ask you to wager however many coins you'd like in a mic minigame. Now, this isn't one of the mic minigames in the actual minigame set, but instead it's just a simple minigame of memorizing fruit cards. If you win, you'll receive double the amount of coins that you wagered. If you lose the coins that you wagered. This is a cool idea. It's reminiscent of Game Guy spaces from Mario Party 3, except the player gets to choose their wager. I really like that. Giving players more opportunities to gamble coins is a great thing, but the problem here is the minigame that you have to play. This fruit card minigame is just way too easy. There's almost no risk of failing this unless if you're just really bad at memorization. There's also almost no variation here. At least with Game Guy you could play one of 4 luck-based minigames that could get really tense, but since victory is almost completely guaranteed in the same minigame every time, this just feels like a bit more of a waste of time. I love what the mic space is going for, but it just misses the mark in my opinion. Bowser and Donkey Kong spaces are separated into their own unique spaces now, and every time that you land on them, you'll play a minigame. However, there are new minigame types on these spaces, with single-player Bowser and Donkey Kong minigames. It's random whether you'll play a single-player or multiplayer minigame, and the benefit or punishment for winning or losing the minigame is chosen at random before the minigame begins, with the potential to gain a star in a single-player DK minigame and the potential to lose a star in both types of Bowser minigames. While I am not a fan of Bowser taking stars out of the game, I do think that this version here is less egregious than Mario Party's 5 and 6. In those games, you'd lose a star in an event that could happen randomly on a Bowser space, which is a really cheap punishment in my personal opinion. It feels unfair that Bowser can just take away your win condition due to a bad roll, and while that is still kind of present in Mario Party 7, the key difference here that makes this event way easier to stomach is that you have the opportunity to fight to keep your star in a skill-based battle before it gets taken away. Now, there are other opportunities for Bowser to just whisk away your win condition by sheer luck in Mario Party 7, but in this particular instance, this is a good change. Unfortunately, it is somewhat overshadowed by the unfortunate return of single-player minigames. We haven't seen single-player minigames since Mario Party 3, which was a good change because single-player minigames really destroy the pacing of games, and more often than not, the players who aren't engaged in the minigame don't really care about the outcome. At least with duels, there's usually enough on the line to make the minigame interesting even for the players not engaged in the minigame, but forcing the 3 other players to watch one player race Donkey Kong for 20 coins just isn't very fun for everyone. If these spaces focused on exclusively multiplayer minigames, this would be a lot better, but the return of single-player minigames is just repulsive. There is a new and really interesting mechanic in Mario Party 7 that I really love. So, on 4 out of the 6 boards, there are some happening spaces that will have you partake in a very quick minigame. However, if you perform exquisitely, you can receive a star from them. I think that this is phenomenal. These events are not something that players can easily farm, as it's super tough to get every single coin in Coinus Maximus, and the average player will likely not memorize every card in Matchmakers, but if you're super skilled, you can be rewarded with a star. I think that this is really cool. Mario Party 6 had some events where you could wager stars in minigames, and I think that by adding an event where players can gain stars on the board through skill is really cool, as long as those events are challenging enough to where players cannot just farm those spaces for free stars. Mario Party 7 also makes a change to the bonus stars that are given at the end of the game. Mario Party 6 replaced the coin star with the orb star, but the bonus stars were still consistent for each game. Mario Party 7 changes this by creating a pool of 6 different bonus stars that can be given in the game. There's the minigame star, action star, and orb stars for Mario Party 6, but there's also the red star, which is given to the player who hits the most red spaces, the running star, which is given to the player who rolls the highest overall, and the shopping star, which is given to the player who spends the most coins in shops. That last one is particularly rough, since the prices of orbs in the shops differs depending on your placement, so if you're in last place, you need to buy twice the amount of orbs as the player in first place to keep up, which just puts you at a real disadvantage for this bonus star. It feels a bit redundant since the orb star exists too. I honestly would have preferred that the coin star come back over this one. The part about these new bonus stars that I really don't care for though is the fact that they're randomly selected, and you don't know what they are until the end of the game. The bonus stars in the previous games were predictable criteria that you could actively work towards throughout the whole game, so they were a great strategy to keep in the back of your mind to help you secure a win at the end. In Mario Party 7, you can't know what these hidden objectives are until the game is over, so you can either spread yourself thin trying to work towards all of them, focus on a couple and just hope that they appear, or ignore them entirely, which just kind of ruins these bonus stars for me. I'm not against the idea of adding new bonus stars, and if we were given the option to choose the bonus stars as you set up the game, my tune would definitely change, but as they are, I definitely think that this removes a lot of the strategy from Mario Party 7 and makes the outcome of each game just feel a bit more random. So, Mario Party 6 introduced a really great central mechanic for each of the boards by implementing a day and night cycle that impacted multiple aspects of the board. This was really great because it created a sense of predictable cohesion between all of the boards, it forces players to plan out their moves multiple turns in advance, and it shakes up the events and aesthetics of the board to keep players interested. This idea was really great, and Mario Party 7 definitely tries to change it up. Mario Party 7 implements Bowser time onto all of its boards. Every 5 turns, Bowser swings by to crash the party and do a variety of things. Some events can happen on multiple boards, like Bowser setting up an orb shop where he forces an item on you, or Bowser forcing everyone to take a family photo and charging them for it. He can also do a variety of board-specific things as well, depending on the board's rule sets. These events can range from destroying bridges, to stealing stars, to sinking islands. We'll talk about the specifics of the Bowser time events when we get to each board, but they definitely, vary depending on the board you're playing on. As a whole, Bowser time feels like it's trying to recapture magic. It's very clearly taking inspiration from the cohesion of the day and night mechanic from Mario Party 6, but it also feels like it's taking some inspiration from Mario Party 2's Bowser Parade from Bowser Land. This event happened every 5 turns and was pretty punishing as well, but the whole point of the Bowser Parade is that the event was predictable and players are able to use coins to turn this event on their opponents, which makes it interesting and strategic. Here, Bowser crashes the party, does something you can't predict, and usually makes things worse for everybody. Like that one guy who's never invited to functions but always shows up anyways. Bowser time is just a very intrusive and uninteresting event. The day and night mechanic always shook up the gameplay in a predictable and varied fashion that players can plan their decisions around and use to their advantage. This simply isn't present with Bowser Time. There's no way of knowing what will happen, you'll likely lose something just because, and there's no way to turn this event off. Bowser Time is just a very disappointingly annoying mechanic that disrupts the flow of the board while adding next to no strategy or stakes to the game. On the bright side, the last few turns event is still intact, and this is probably the best iteration of this event that the series has seen so far. Here, red and blue spaces can be tripled, the player in last can receive 40 coins, the price of stars can be cut in half, red spaces can become Bowser spaces, or 10 additional Koopa Kid spaces can be placed on the board. These events are a really happy medium between the last 5 turns in Mario Parties 4 and 5, which were interesting for all players, but could be a bit too impactful in my honest opinion. But this is also more interesting for all players than Mario Party 6's last 5 turns, which mostly only impacted or benefited the player in last place. These events are hectic enough to be interesting, but they won't disrupt the flow of the game thus far, and they affect everybody enough to keep things interesting right up until the end. Speaking of keeping things interesting, does Mario Party 7 keep the interesting item system going from Mario Party 6? Well, the short answer is yes, with an asterisk. Mario Party 7 retains a lot of the brilliance that was present in Mario Party 6's Orb system with a few new ideas of its own. These items are great because they give players the ability to make the boards unique on each playthrough. Setting traps for other players makes you more aware of their positioning, which makes for very fun board gameplay. Mario Party 7 retains a lot of this, only making a few changes to the orbs that existed previously. One interesting piece is that there are no more passive orbs. This slot here represents the orb that is currently in effect, meaning that you have to actively use orbs like the snack orb on yourself, and while this is active, you can't use a mushroom on yourself. This is an interesting change, but honestly just feels a little bit more clunky than it needs to be. I get it though, if players were able to use items like the flower orb and triple shroom orb in conjunction with one another, this would be absolutely broken. The implementation is just a little wonky to me. A handful of orbs were really weirdly rebranded here too. So for example, the Podoboo orb in Mario Party 6 was a roadblock orb that took 10 coins from a player who passed it. But in Mario Party 7, this was rebranded into the Spiny orb, which does the same thing. However, in Mario Party 6, the Spiny orb was a trap orb that would steal 10 coins from a player and give it to the user, and this does exist in Mario Party 7 and was rebranded into the Hammer Bro orb. I know that this ultimately doesn't matter, it's just really weird to me how Mario Party 7 decided to arbitrarily rebrand orbs that do the same thing as their Mario Party 6 counterparts. The continuity of this series is next to non-existent. Random orb semantics aside, only a few orbs were removed or replaced. The Boo Away orb was removed since the Boo Hut no longer exists, and the Bullet Bill orb was removed, but somewhat functionally replaced by the Fireball orb. The Klepto orb was removed, which is fine. The Bob-omb orb is rebranded to knock a player down rather than half their roll, and the Koopa Troopa orb is changed into the Warp Pipe orb. Instead of swapping players' places, the Warp Pipe orb will instead place the player back where they started their turn, which is just an excellent tool to bully your friends. This does mean that the Warp Pipe orb in its original state in Mario Party 6 is gone, but those are all of the major changes to Mario Party 6's item system. Mario Party 7 realizes the brilliance in Mario Party 6's item system and chooses to build upon that rather than change it, which is a good move. Mario Party 7 adds one completely new universal orb, which is the Pink Boo orb. If an enemy lands on this space, Pink Boo will steal a star or 20 coins from that player and give it to the thrower, which is so brutal and impactful, and I love it. However, Mario Party 7 adds a lot more than just the Pink Boo orb to his item system. Mario Party 7 introduces 2 new types of conditional orbs. There are board-specific orbs that play into each board's rule set, which I actually enjoy. For example, there's the aforementioned Bob-omb orb that only appears on Pagoda Peak, a linear board where this item will be specifically impactful. There's also other really clever ones like the Bandit orb, which will steal coins from another player's windmill in Windmillville, and the Cannon orb, which will blast you up the mountain in Pagoda Peak. These are cool. I like the idea of orbs that work directly with the board's mechanics that can be used to really make each board more distinct from each other. However, there's also character-specific orbs, which you can only get when you're playing as that character. These special orbs kind of work like special items worked in Mario Kart Double Dash, where each pair of characters has a specific orb assigned to them. Mario and Luigi have the Fireball orb, Peach and Daisy have the Flower orb, Yoshi and Birdo have the Egg orb, Wario and Waluigi have the Vacuum orb, Drybones and Boo have the Magic orb, and Toad and Toadette have the Triple Shroom orb. So this means that Mario Party 7 has a tier list for its board gameplay. gameplay. Here's a super quick rundown of my personal tier list for Mario Party 7. Sitting firmly in bottom tier, I have Wario and Waluigi. The vacuum orb could potentially net you a maximum of 30 coins in a standard game, but there is a 50% chance that you get less than 10 coins in total. This item doesn't provide enough reward for the cost that it would take to buy one, and it's not impactful enough to ever really warrant picking up. Next up, we have Yoshi and Birdo. The egg orb allows you to take any orbs that you pass that are placed along the board and use them yourself, which can be useful when there's lots of traps set on the board. Unfortunately, if you pass your own traps, you also remove those as well, so this can work against you in some ways too. Stealing traps is a good way to establish dominance on the board, but the egg orb is just far too situational to be very useful in any given game of Mario Party. Sitting at a cool B tier, we have Mario and Luigi. The fireball orb allows players to steal 10 coins from any player that they pass for 3 turns. This could provide a really high return on investment, but usually in practice you'll wind up bullying a single player out of 30 coins. It's worth the investment in a solid enough item, but some of the others are stronger in my opinion. In A tier, we have Peach and Daisy. The flower orb allows players to gain 3 coins for every space that they move, and they will also ignore any roadblocks. This is a really great way to just farm coins, since you can earn up to 30 coins with a good roll with the added bonus of avoiding any traps. There's not a lot of times where this item isn't worth picking up, and if you get it from the orb space, you just won free money. And finally, we have the 2 best orbs in S tier. The triple shroom orb allows the player to roll 2 dice blocks for 3 turns. This is extremely powerful because this player can just continuously outroll the other players and get to stars and shops faster than others. There's very few situations where having this item active would be to the user's detriment. But somehow even more powerful than that is the magic orb. The magic orb doubles your roll for 2 turns, which is already really good, but you also get to ignore roadblocks as well. This orb is so powerful because you can roll really high for multiple turns completely uninterrupted by any roadblock set by opponents. This and the flower orb really make roadblocks way less powerful simply by how good these items are at completely ignoring them. I'm personally of the belief that Mario Party should not have a tier list. These characters don't play differently or support different playstyles, they're essentially the equivalent of pawns on a game board. So to have a tier list and give players who pick Boo or Dry Bones an advantage over a player who picks Wario or Waluigi is really antithetical to what Mario Party fundamentally is. You aren't even given any information on these special orbs when you're selecting your character too, and item description would have gone a long way to at least allowing newcomers to make an informed decision when they choose their character. A weird thing about this too is that players can't steal other players' special orbs either. So let's say for example Toadette has a triple shroom orb and the orbs get shuffled. If this orb gets sent to another player, it will be miraculously transformed to that player's special orb, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Even if you're on a team with a character and you try to use their special orb, the game will arbitrarily tell you that you can't. So if you picked a bad character, you're stuck with the repercussions of that choice for the whole game. Mario Party 7 feels like it was really trying to do something new with its item system by adding these character orbs, but they aren't unique enough to make each character's playstyle different or anything, but instead they just make the balancing worse and punish players for choosing certain characters over others. It is kind of weird that Mario Party 7 decided to go this route with its item system, but personally I think that the character orbs are part of a larger design shift in this game. I personally think that Mario Party 7 is balanced around doubles rather than standard 4-player Mario Party. I think the idea around this new tier list is to get players to think about team composition in Mario Party, as weird as that sounds. You could go with both members of the same pair and monopolize a certain orb, or you can mix and match the characters and diversify your portfolio. It really takes a lot of inspiration from Mario Kart Double Dash, but the team focus doesn't end there. There are multiple events on the boards that can be played with 2 players simultaneously working together, and some are pretty obviously centered around the idea that you should have 2 players handling these tasks together. Now, this isn't an inherently bad thing. I actually think that a Mario Party game that's centered around teams could actually be a really cool and interesting idea. The problem is that Mario Party 7 makes a lot of really bad changes to the way that tag battle works. You see, there are 2 different ways that you can play tag battle. You can play with 2 teams of 2 players or 4 teams of 2 players. You heard me right, Mario Party 7 supports up to 8 players at one time. That's an awesome concept. When Super Smash Bros. Added 8-player Smash, it instantly became a go-to mode for me when hosting larger gatherings. Mario Party 7 was pretty creative with the way that it implemented this too. It doesn't support LAN like Mario Kart Double Dash or Kirby Air Ride, but instead each player shares half of a controller. One half of the team uses the control stick and L, and the other uses the C stick and R. There are even 8-player minigames that support all of these players at the same time, and that's honestly really cool. So What's the catch? Well, in previous Mario parties, players would move independently of their teammates and could really coordinate with one another regarding placement and going after stars. In Mario Party 7, the two players are constantly tied to each other and always move together. Every other turn, the players will alternate being the captain, getting to choose where you go, using items, and playing the regular minigames. If another team challenges you to a duel, or if you play a Bowser or Donkey Kong minigame, each team will choose which team member represents them. This honestly just kind of waters down the fun of Mario Party. While in the previous games, it felt like the teams were two players strategizing and working together, Mario Party 7's tag battle feels like each person is only getting to play half of a Mario Party game. This three-legged race style mode feels less like you're putting two brains together and working with another player, and more like you're trying to work together to accomplish what a single player could accomplish in a standard game of Mario Party. The setup for minigames is really weird too. You won't exclusively be playing 8-player minigames, but sometimes you'll play regular 4-player, 2v2, or 1v3 minigames. So in a 1v3 minigame, you would be working with two other halves of two other teams against one half of another team, instead of working with your teammate. It does create these really weird yet fun temporary alliances, but it is also an odd choice since you really won't be working directly with your teammate in these minigames. Personally, I wish that there were more 8-player minigames and that there were maybe even some 4v4 or 2v6 minigames to help round out the selection and keep everybody engaged. The tag battle mode just feels like a good idea that wasn't properly fleshed out fully. If players could move independently of one another, create more interesting strategies, if players weren't punished for picking certain characters, if the minigames did more to involve all players, and if there were maybe some larger boards that could compensate for 8 players being on them at once, this mode could have actually been phenomenal. But as it is, 8-player battle just feels like a somewhat rushed idea that doesn't quite accomplish what it set out to do. And it unfortunately actively makes the regular Mario Party and 2v2 tag battle worse as a result, since the regular 2-team tag battle uses this new gameplay style. Mario Party 7 also offers a different type of playing Mario Party for less than 4 people as well. Solo Cruise is the typical story mode that is included in each Mario Party game, but in Mario Party 7, you also have the ability to play the Solo Cruise rule sets on each board with another human player, essentially creating a unique duel mode. In this mode, you'll play on each normal board, but there's a certain win condition that a player needs to meet to end the game, but if nobody meets that criteria by turn 30, the game will be declared a draw. The rule set depends on the board and is usually a twist on the board's main rule set. For example, in Neon Heights, you need to get 3 stars from the 8 chests scattered around the board, and they increase in price as chests are opened. Not all of the win conditions are mind-blowingly amazing, but they are honestly really fun to play with a friend. Mario Party has needed an express or shorter option that only Mario Party 3's duel mode even came close to accomplishing up until this point. But this is honestly a really fun mode to play if you're just looking for a quick way to play some Mario Party with a friend. It's really nice to have this option because if you don't have an hour to kill, Solo Cruise boards usually last anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, so you can play one of these way quicker than a standard game of Mario Party. There are a few changes to the regular board gameplay, like the fact that there are coin blocks scattered around the board, minigames are only played when players land on a dual space, Bowser and DK minigames are always single player, and red and blue spaces are worth 5 coins, but other than that, this is a pretty fun, simplified version of Mario Party that works well with 2 players. This is a concept that I'd love to see expanded in a future entry, maybe with unique dual boards and rule sets that rival the main boards in depth. The more options that you give players to experience Mario Party in the way that they want to experience Mario Party, the better. Solo Cruise is a really neat mode in retrospect. A lot of my criticisms with party modes still apply here, sadly, but I have a lot of respect for how Mario Party 7 gives players options to experience Mario Party with more or less players than the standard 4. And hey, any mode that removes Bowser time is fine by me. Anyways, I think we've talked about game mechanics enough, right? Let's delve into the designs of the actual boards. Mario Party 7 has 6 different boards for us to choose from. We've got Grand Canal, Pagoda Peak, Pyramid Park, Neon Heights, Windmillville, and Bowser's Enchanted Inferno. These boards also have unique rule sets similarly to Mario Party 6, and they are also themed after tons of different places around the world, like Italy, Egypt, and Florida. Mario Party 6's boards were really consistently good, so let's see if Mario Party 7's boards are able to compete with them, from my least favorite to my favorite. It pains me to say that Windmillville is my least favorite board in this game. In Windmillville, stars are tied to these windmills and the players take the role of venture capitalists, investing in these windmills with their coins. Each of these windmills is worth 1, 2, or 3 stars, and the player who has the most invested in that windmill at any given time owns that windmill and the stars attached to it. If another player swings by and invests more in a windmill than the current holder, that star will be transferred to its new owner. I love this mechanic because it gives an insanely high uncapped value to coins and forces players to outbid each other for a finite amount of stars. You can also throw the board exclusive Bandit Orb, which will steal coins from the windmills of whoever lands on this space and give them to you, which is a really fun trap to set for your opponents. There are 4 1-star windmills windmills towards the middle of the perimeter of the board, with the two 2-star windmills on the left and right extremes of the map, and the big, expensive 3-star windmill right in the center. This would mean that more players would be competing for the center windmill since it's in a central location on the board. The 1-star windmills are a cheap but convenient investment that many players might pass, and the 2-star windmills are in an inconvenient location, so they're a less competitive investment. This all sounds great, and yeah, it is great. The problem is that Windmillville's layout does not complement this mechanic well at all. Ideally, players would be able to choose their routes and go for the windmills that they're interested in, but Windmillville does not allow for this. There are no junctions here where players can make decisions, but instead we have these railroading junctions that are very reminiscent of the shortbread bridges in Sweet Dream from Mario Party 5. These are so bad because now players don't get to make any decisions regarding where they go and what windmills they can target, but instead it depends on where your opponents go and what route you get given when you arrive. This is made especially bad when looking at the 3-star windmill in the center. There are 2 flower routes that need to be in a certain position for you to be able to access this windmill, and after the first player comes through and gets to invest in it, it will take 3 trips through these flower paths in different directions before another player can even attempt to contest this windmill. This means that the center windmill, the most valuable one on the board, is significantly less competitive than it should be. If the player who gets to that windmill first dumps all of the money that they have into that windmill, there's a good chance that windmill may never change hands. On a board like this, with a mechanic that gives so much value to coins and investing them wisely, movement options are absolutely crucial to help bring out the best in this mechanic. There aren't too many events on this board either. The flower glider will take players to one of 3 landing spots for 10 coins at random. One of these spots is directly beside the 3-star windmill, so you can roll the dice and hope that you land there, but there's no guarantee. At the top of the board, there's the trampoline game, where players can bounce and grab coins. If you get all of them, you'll earn 50 coins as a bonus. Towards the start of the board, there's the Koopa Ranch, where players need to herd sheep and will earn coins for herding them. Bowser Time is also kind of annoying on this board. There are 2 unique events here, one where Koopa Kid will steal some coins from one of the windmills, or Bowser can just destroy a windmill, starting it back to 0 and all invested coins are lost. As I mentioned in the Bowser Time section, Bowser destroying this windmill provides no strategy here. It's just an annoying setback that doesn't create a new or interesting situation for players. Overall, Windmillville is a board with a fantastic central mechanic that is squandered by a layout that does not complement the mechanic at all. Pagoda Peak is a linear board, but it is arguably one of the best linear boards in the series. At the top of the board, players can purchase a star at the set price. After a player purchases the star, the price increases by 10 coins until it reaches 40, where it will be set back to 10. I really like this dynamic because it encourages players to buy and use items to influence high rolls when the star is cheap, and it encourages them to use sluggish room orbs to roll lower when the star is more expensive. There are a few happening spaces that will allow the player to change the price of the star through this gong. This happening space towards the start will let you choose a bottle rocket that will either take you far up the mountain or back to start. Towards the middle of this board, there's Kung Fu Falls, where players can grab the coins that fall. If you are able to collect all of the coins that fall, Master Koopa will grant you a star, which is super challenging, so I really like this. Towards the top of the board, there is Blazing Rock, where players need to mash to put out a flame. Depending on your performance, you could earn coins or a star. Finally, landing on this space on the Dragon's Tongue will shoot you all the way back to start, which is super punishing and cruel, but in a good way. I really like the way that this board uses aesthetics too, showing how far you've traveled up the mountain with cute sections of the board like passing this dojo with dueling spaces on the outside. However, Bowser Time is unsurprisingly obnoxious. He can knock everybody down a level on the mountain or destroy the bridges and halt everyone's progress for at least a turn, which is just kind of bland. While this map is a bit small, there aren't a ton of options for decisions here, and a lot of your performance is going to be reliant on your dice rolls. I think that this board does justice to the linear structure, makes great use of the orb mechanic, and has enough interesting events going on that it's still a fun board that's worth playing. Pyramid Park takes the mechanics of Snowflake Lake from Mario Party 6 and changes them up. This board has a set number of stars given to each player at the start of the game, and their goal is to pay to ride the chain chomps past their opponents and crush them to steal stars. However, since the day and night mechanic is gone, normal chain chomp houses will always charge 10 coins for 1 dice block and 20 coins for 2. However, this red chomp on the left side of the board will only charge 10 coins for 3 dice blocks, which is such a good deal that kind of makes the other chain chomps irrelevant to some degree. The layout here is also very different from Snowflake Lake. This board is split up into 2 halves, and the chain chomps can traverse virtually any sections of this board. The only area that chain chomps cannot access is this little strip behind a Womp Toll that only lasts for about 5 spaces, so there aren't very many areas of this board where players can duck and remain safe for very long. Now, I think that there is an argument here that players may prefer this more open-ended structure to Snowflake Lake's circular town square type structure, but I personally prefer the layout of Snowflake Lake because it gives players more opportunities to position themselves in ways that can allow them to wreak havoc and then avoid their friends' wrath as best as possible. Pyramid Park doesn't necessarily have this decision making as much. The decision is instead choosing which opponent you want to chase down and steal from, which is fun. However, I just prefer the layout of Snowflake Lake, as I feel that layout complemented the mechanics much better. There are quicksand pits on the left and right of the board that will take you to the other side if you land on the happening spaces. Behind the Womp Toll, there is this Bowser Sphinx that can do a variety of things like cause a Bowser Revolution, have the Chain Chomp cost, or turn blue spaces into red spaces. This happening space in front of the Oasis allows players to swim for coins, and this green space allows players to play whack-a-mole with cobras. Bowser Time could cause a sandstorm to destroy the bridges, splitting the board into two halves for a few turns. I actually think that this is a pretty good event. Locking players on islands with each other will definitely cause them to get a bit more aggressive with their star stealing since their opponents have fewer opportunities to escape. However, Bowser could also just take a star from the player in first place and give it to Koopa Kid. Koopa Kid will then appear on the board, and the first player to crush him with a Chain Chomp will get that star. It's good that players can fight for that star and that it isn't taken out of the economy, but having a star randomly taken from you on a board with a finite amount of stars in play just feels really cheap and unfair. Pyramid Park does justice to the really clever star stealing mechanic with a fun and interesting layout, even though there are a few missteps. Neon Heights is an extremely memorable board. This board has a New York showbiz theme, which is super unique and lovable. On this board, there are 3 chests that players can choose to open for 10 coins each. In each chest, there can be a Bob-omb that launches the player back to start, 20 coins, or a star. Once the star is found, 3 new chests are spawned. The new Lakitu Orb will bring one of the chests to the player, but there's no guarantee that the chest that they bring will have a star in it unless if the star chest is the only one left. This is kind of reminiscent of the Mirage Star mechanic from Mario Party 3 Spiny Desert, except here, if you don't receive a star, you could still receive coins or you might get sent back to start. Yeah, this is more luck heavy, but chests only cost 10 coins to open, and it creates an interesting dynamic where players will chase down different chests, hoping to get to theirs first and that their chest will contain the star. There's also tons of opportunities to gain coins on this board. On the left, there's a shooting gallery minigame where you'll be rewarded for shooting Koopa Kids, but if you hit Toadsworth, you'll get nothing. On the right side, there's a baseball minigame where you'll receive 2 coins for every ball that you hit. These events are cool, but weirdly they're not happening spaces, but instead free events that anybody can play as they pass. This means that you're going to see these events a lot, and they will also inflate the economy since everybody will likely gain around 10 coins each time they try these minigames. If they were happening spaces, I think that this would have been much better, but it's not a big detriment. At the top of the board, there's a rocket ship where players need to optimally pump to get as many coins as possible. It is possible to get a star at this event, but it's extremely difficult to get this as a solo player, but it's really easy to get it in team matches. In the center of the board, behind a toll, there's Matchmakers, a matching minigame where players can earn coins. If they get all of the panels correctly, they will win a star, but if they choose the Bowser panel, Shy Guy will take 10 coins from them. This event is challenging and fun. I honestly really like it. Finally, these 2 happening spaces will cause a UFO to come and move the chests. Bowser Time, unfortunately, does hurt this board though. Here, Bowser can either steal coins from all players and put them in a chest, steal a star from first place and put it in a chest, or put a dark star in a chest that steals a star from the player who opens it. These events are just bland and cheap. Bowser Time pretty much just resorts to stealing from players and selling their items back to them, which is not a fun way to shake up the gameplay. Despite this, Neon Heights has an interesting layout, a decent gimmick, and is overall a very fun board to play with friends. Grand Canal is another really great standard Mario Party board. This board is themed after Venice, Italy, and has all kinds of cute events that are lots of fun. On the left and right side of the board, players can ride a gondola and collect some coins while they're at it. The happening spaces on the drawbridge will send you to a random space on the board, and this space on the tower will send you back to start. The space by the juggling blooper will initiate a shell game, where players can earn either 5 coins, a star, or they could also lose a star by getting a dark star. This instance of players losing a star to this minigame is actually fine by me since it's an event that they initiated knowing the risks. Finally, on this happening space towards the start of the board, players can initiate Coinus Maximus, where the upper class Shy Guys will throw coins at you for their entertainment. If you collect 20 coins, you can gain a star, which can actually be pretty challenging on your own. The biggest detriment to Grand Canal is that it doesn't really have much of a central mechanic to call its own, but it is still fun simply due to the amount of diverse and interesting happening spaces across the board. Bowser Time is actually not bad on this board. The only unique event that can occur here is Bowser destroying these bridges and replacing them with his own that have Bowser spaces on them. I don't mind this. It's a completely fine and inoffensive usage of the Bowser Time mechanic. Grand Canal is just a really good example of a standard Mario Party board. This outer circle does have a long stretch of spaces that isn't broken up by any junctions, but players have plenty of other options for decisions on this board that keep it interesting. It may not be my favorite board ever, but it is certainly a good one. Bowser's Enchanted Inferno is easily the best board here. This is a board comprised of 4 islands, but there are so many junctions and opportunities to make decisions that the board remains consistently fun and engaging. This is also the best best usage of the Bowser Time mechanic. Every time Bowser Time occurs, the island that has the star on it will sink into the lava and the star will be relocated. Any players that were on that island will lose half of their coins and will be sent back to the start. This is honestly such a great mechanic. It breaks up the standard star chasing gameplay and sometimes might force you to choose to abandon going after the star in order to keep your coins. This event is predictable, it shakes up the formula in a way that creates some really fun strategies, and there isn't anything about this central mechanic that feels unfair or cheap. This is honestly brilliant, and it makes me wish that the rest of Mario Party 7's boards were this clever with their usage of Bowser Time. There's tons of happening spaces here too that keep you on your toes. There are cannons on each island that will blast you to another island, and these two happening spaces will call Klepto to change the star spawn, which can definitely create some tension. On the left island, there's a roller coaster that players can ride and catch some coins. On the top island, there's a Koopa Kid sumo wrestling match where you can gain coins if you win, but lose coins if you lose. On the right island, there's a Bowser cannon that will take coins from players in its range, very similarly to this cannon in Mario Party 5's Bowser Nightmare. And finally, there's the Happy Hopscotch obstacle course. Here, you'll need to jump to one of two pedestals. One of them will fall, and if you choose the wrong one, you'll lose 10 coins. If you make it to the end, you'll gain a star. All of these events are hectic, challenging, and interesting. Each of them gives each island a bit of personality and will most certainly keep you on your toes. This is honestly one of my favorite boards in the whole series. Bowser's Enchanted Inferno is honestly just an incredible board that really mixes things up in a new, interesting, and predictable way that just makes for a fun time all around. I just wish that it had a more unique aesthetic that helped to make it stand out, but other than that, I love this board. The boards in Mario Party 7 are super solid. I'm hard on Windmillville not because I think that it's a terrible board or anything, but just since it makes a lot of little mistakes that prevents an otherwise really fun mechanic from truly shining. However, I generally think that these boards continue in the really great direction that Mario Party 6 set, with having new and interesting rule sets while staying true to the original feel of Mario Party. I feel like a broken record saying this, but it bears repeating that the Bowser Time mechanic is what really hurts a lot of the board gameplay here. It pales in comparison to brilliant mechanics like the day and night mechanic or even action time because of how clumsily it was implemented. It's a shame because the board layouts are really well crafted, the different rule sets are fun and interesting, but some of the changes that Mario Party 7 makes, like Bowser Time, the new tag battle, and the arbitrary removal of mechanics like Chance Time and Boo Huts just really hold this game back from having the best board gameplay in the series. Even though Mario Party 7 might not quite hit the level of board gameplay quality that we saw in 6, what about the minigames? That's right folks, I'll be rating the minigames on my scale from 1 to 10, then finding the mean, median, and mode for Mario Party 7's minigames and figuring out where it stacks up compared to the other Mario Party games. The score will appear in the bottom right of the screen as we discuss them. Mario Party 7 has 85 minigames that can be found through normal play, which is actually the most original minigames for any game in the series. Mario Party 7 does create 4 new types of minigames as well: 4-player Mike, 8-player, Donkey Kong single player, and Bowser single player. We're only omitting 3 minigames here too: Ice Moves, Stick and Spin, and Bowser's Lovely Lift, since they are not in the minigame set that can appear through normal play. Without further ado, here's all of the minigames for Mario Party 7. Catchy Tunes is a fun minigame where you need to catch one of each musical symbol. The perspective can make it tough to gauge depth sometimes, but this is a fun minigame. Bubble Brawl is a really weird and unique minigame, but the lack of invincibility frames allows players to get bullied out really quickly. Track and Yield is a great minigame where you have to jump over obstacles. Fun Run is an extremely fun minigame where you need to race to the end and avoid obstacles. This minigame can get really tense and close. If you're playing with people who have played this game a lot, the race can be won by mere frames. Cointagious is an egregiously boring filler minigame. Just press A and hope that you get a good number. Yawn. Snow Ride is a fun minigame where you'll have to weave through gates. This minigame can also be won by a few frames, which gets so intense. I love it. Picture this as just a brilliant minigame where you need to flip through an animation to find a specific frame faster than your opponents. This is one of the very few instances where L or R mashing is even remotely okay. Ghost in the Hall is a fine minigame where you need to just get to the end. It's a little boring, but whatever. Big Dripper is like Coney Island from Mario Party 5, but with an added hazard to make things just a bit more intense. Target Tag is a great minigame where you fly through targets to try to shove opponents away from big points. I just wish that it lasted for a little bit longer, honestly. Pokey Pummel is an iconic mashing minigame. Take Me Ohm is a good don't touch the hazard minigame, but it's a little easy to make it to the end. Cartwheeled is a great racing minigame where you can bully your opponents. It reminds me a lot of Top Ride from Kirby Air Ride. Balloon Busters is like if you took Bowser's Big Blast and Balloon of Doom from Mario Party 4 and combined the worst elements from those two minigames. Only the player behind the shield can win, so you can lose this minigame by no fault of your own. It's just a monotonous take on these minigames. Clock Watchers has every player stop the clock by a designated time by saying stop into the microphone. This minigame is 4 times the length of other minigames that take on this idea because of the microphone, and unfortunately that turns an otherwise good minigame into a bore. Dart Attack involves shooting darts, where each player will take turns shooting darts through the microphone. It's just less intuitive than it needs to be, and taking turns makes this minigame take forever. Oil Crisis takes forever and is way too easy. It's extremely likely that everyone makes it to the end. This would probably be pretty good if all players played simultaneously, if the difficulty was adjusted for all players to have traditional controls, and if it was endless. Math the Mortician is a shooting gallery minigame with the microphone that takes forever and would have been significantly better with normal controls. La Bamba is a fun idea, but it's too hard for the single player. If they could drop more bombs more quickly, the balancing would be better. Spray Anything is easy for the single player and is just kinda slow paced. Balloonatic is a little easy for the 3, but definitely has its fun moments. Spinner Cell has a really unique control scheme for the single player and is really well balanced. I like it a lot. Think Tank is a weird tank minigame that just isn't as fun as you'd think it would be. It's fine, just not very noteworthy. Flash Fright is nearly impossible for the 1. If the 3 circle this bridge, they'll never get hit. Coin Op Bop has the same problem as Fish and Drips, but in a coin minigame. The 1 has an advantage. It's much easier to input a sequence than to react. Easy Pickings is a decent, well-balanced minigame that's just kinda boring. Pogo a Go-Go is a cool premise, but easy for the 3. If there was less lag on the single player shifts, it would be more balanced. Wheel of Woe is an interesting mic minigame in a small arena. The 3 still have a bit of an advantage, but it's fun nonetheless. Boxing Day is easy for the 3. It'd be better if it wasn't a microphone minigame. Be My Chum is a fun minigame that's very similar to Wheel of Woe, just underwater. Stratosphere is a really interesting minigame that would probably be better balanced with normal button controls. It is pretty neat otherwise. Number Crunchers is way too easy for the 3. I think that Fruit Talktail from Mario Party 6 was the better execution of this idea. Buzzstormer requires lots of communication between the team members and is way more fun than it has any right to be. Tile and Error emphasizes bullying your opponents to claim tiles. It's a good time. Battery Ram is a phenomenal puzzle minigame that also requires lots of communication with your team. You'll be giving orders to your teammate like you're trying to move furniture into your new home. Cardinal Rule involves reacting and ground pounding on the correct cards. It's decent, nothing special. Bumper Crop is a weird minigame. I'm not really sure where the challenge or competition is supposed to be in this one. Hop-O-Matic 4000 is a classic reaction minigame. Wingin' It is a good team masher that is very similar to Manic Mallets, but with a weaker aesthetic. Sphere Factor is a really great minigame where you need to work with your teammate to roll this ball to the goal. It's just really tense and fun. Herbicidal Maniac is a good shooting minigame with an arcadey feel. Pyramid Scheme takes the controls from Battery Ram and puts them in a mid-coin collecting minigame. World Peace is a puzzle game for toddlers. It's just whatever. Spider Stomp is a really fun Galaga type minigame. If there was a little bit more enemy variety and challenge, this one might have been a 10. Helipopper could have been better than it is, but the perspective is so weird and the arena is so boring, it's hard to get excited for it. Monty's Revenge is an insanely clever minigame that is always tons of fun. This minigame can get really close and there isn't really anything quite like it. Definitely a contender for one of my personal favorite minigames. Deckhands is basically everything that can suck in a luck minigame sucking at once. It's slow, it's boring, there's no stakes, there's no pizzazz, you're just drawing cards from the deck in the most boring fashion imaginable. Air Farce is a competitive hang gliding minigame that's just kinda underwhelming. The Final Countdown is the greatest King of the Hill minigame in the series. The panels dropping beneath you as you fight makes this minigame way more aggressive. I love it. Warp Pipe Dreams is a pretty boring luck minigame. Either you get the correct path or you don't. Wait For It is a fast and frantic minigame where you need to whack the balls to your opponent's side. Mad Props is a pretty okay racing minigame. It's just kinda whatever. Gimme a Sign is a great competitive reaction minigame. Bridge Work is another avoid the hazards minigame that can turn into a bullet hell. It's fun. Spin Doctor is pretty good. You'll spend more time waiting for these modules to turn, and there's a good chance that you and your opponent take different routes but get to the finish at similar times. It's cool and all, but honestly not as fun as I wish it was. Hip Hop Drop is a competitive reaction minigame where you're trying to directly outpace your opponent. Chokes are punished brutally, and this turns into a super tense duel. Royal Rumpus just feels off. I don't know how they made crushing Goombas feel imprecise, but they pulled it off, I guess. Light Speed is a Splatoon-type minigame that's unfortunately not very fun or competitive because the dominant strategy is just to follow your opponent and change their path. Apes of Wrath is deceptively luck-heavy. If the Ukikis target you, you lose, which doesn't feel very fair. Fish and Chips is a good swim and avoid the hazards minigame. You know exactly what you're getting into here. Camp Ukiki is a fun obstacle course with a weird perspective. Jumpman is easy to win. If this was a more challenging 4-player minigame, it'd be more fun. The name is cute though. Vine Country is a very easy minigame where you flip to avoid hazards. This would also be more fun as a multiplayer minigame. A Bridge Too Short is a luck minigame against the CPU Donkey Kong. It's exactly as riveting as it sounds. Peel Out is basically a better version of End of the Line from Mario Party 3, but with bananas. Bananas Faster is a passable timing minigame. Stump Change is a pretty decent banana collecting minigame that's just over way too quickly. Tunnel of Lava is insultingly easy. I doubt that even series newcomers would lose this one. Treasure Dome would be better if the time limit was cut in half. It's just too easy. Slotto Whirl is just slots. Funsticle Course is a great obstacle course with a lot of tricks up its sleeve. Thunderwall is a fun minigame where the biggest obstacle that you have to face is your opponents getting in your way. Magical Journey is another platforming minigame that's easier than Funsticle Course. It's still fun though. Real Smoothie is a really good reaction minigame where players need to work together. Synchronicity is a fun minigame where you need to paddle with your teammate. I just wish that there was a bit more to this one. Grin and Bar It is 8-player hot rope jump. It's a good time. Hammer Spammer is a deceptively easy dodge the hazards minigame. Give Me a Break is a really great game of 8-player chicken. This one is a ton of fun if you're actually able to gather 8 people in a room together. Bumper to Bumper is basically if Bumper Ball supported 8 players and was actually fun. This one's a great time. Spinoff is a very boring slots and matching minigame. Rope-a-Dope is a fun pathing minigame that requires teamwork. If this was longer and more challenging, it could definitely rank even higher. Ducked and Cover is a decent but very weird minigame where you're playing with 2 players on the same controller where the player on the right will do more of the mashing. It's just very odd. Bobomic Plague is a fun hot potato minigame. Unhappy Trails is another good pathing minigame, but this one's a relay race. I personally prefer Rope-a-Dope's tether mechanic, but this one is good too. Shock Absorbers is a very fun reaction minigame that gets super fast. And that's all of the minigames in Mario Party 7. Mario Party 7 continues the upward trend that has been running steadily since Mario Party 5 with a mean score of 5.72, a median of 6, and a mode of 7, placing Mario Party 7 with the second highest mean score so far. The minigames in Mario Party 7 are good, like actually very good. The issues with the minigame set arise more so in the new minigame types that were added. The DK and Bowser single-player games are just very boring for all players and are way too easy. The 4-player mic minigames are also very boring, and they also take forever. Forcing all players to sit around and pass the mic waiting for their turn just kills the pace of these minigames, and most of them would have been better as regular 4-player minigames. These minigames can take multiple minutes, and for 3/4 of that time, you're not even playing the minigame, which just leads to players getting uninterested in what's going on. While the mic minigames in Mario Party 6 weren't amazing or anything, the mic's implementation in Mario Party 7 feels more intrusive and less like a fun novelty. I was impressed with the 8-player minigames though. The 8-player minigames are simple, intuitive, and use the limited controller layout well. Mario Party 7 just confuses me with the amount of minigames in each section. Not counting mic minigames, there's only 13 4-player minigames in Mario Party 7, the lowest amount in the series so far. Why? Why would there be so few 4-player minigames, the most common type in actual board game play? Were the minigames just spread too thin between all of the different genres of minigames in this game? Regardless, Mario Party 7 has a very strong set of minigames that is mostly held back by the new types of minigames that just missed the mark. Mario Party 7 also continues the tradition of including some minigame side modes as well. Volcano Peril is the staple win 3, 5, or 7 minigames mode, and Decathlon Castle is the same as Decathlon Park from Mario Party 6 and Minigame Decathlon from Mario Party 5. In this mode, you'll play a set number of minigames and will be given a score on your performance. However, in Mario Party 7, you can choose to play a set of either 10 or 5 minigames, which is a nice option. I really like the Decathlon modes, and I'm glad that Mario Party 7 has taken an if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach to this mode. Waterfall Battle is a dueling minigame mode where players will face off in a duel minigame. If you lose a duel, you'll fall down the waterfall and won't get back up until the person who beats you falls. The first player who beats all 3 other players in a row will win this mode. While I harped on how vapid minigame tournaments Tournament and Mount Duel were in the previous games, I think I honestly preferred those to this setup. Waterfall Battle is more confusing than it really needs to be, and it could honestly go on for forever. I just wish that there was a more interesting way to play duel minigames. And finally, there's Pearl Hunt. In Pearl Hunt, your goal is to find 3 of your character's pearls. Players will play a minigame, and then the winner can choose a shell. If you find your own pearl, it will be permanently open. If you find another player's pearl, they can remember that and open that shell when they win a minigame. There are also some items in the shells as well. If you get a mushroom or a super mushroom, you can open 1 or 2 more shells. If you choose a Bob-omb, the surrounding shells will be open briefly for a period of time. And if you get a whirlpool, all of the shells will be shuffled. This mode is okay, but it can honestly just kind of drag on for too long. If you get a whirlpool, it will take an especially long time to complete this mode, and you and your friends will likely get bored very quickly. I still think that Treetop Bingo from Mario Party 6 was the superior minigame mode. Interestingly, Mario Party 7 doesn't really have any in-depth side modes like Mario Party 6's Speak Up or Mario Party 3's Duel mode. I do think the 8-player party mode likely took that spot, but there is a final minigame mode that does allow for 8 players, 8-player ice battle. This is pretty similar to Volcano Peril, but with 8 players and the potential to choose between single-player minigames, team minigames, or all of the minigames. It's not super in-depth, but it is a good time if you want to jump into some minigames with a large group. So, Mario Party 7's beginner friendliness. There's a lot of things that I want to say make Mario Party 7 beginner friendly. The boards are good, the items are mostly intuitive, and there's a good set of minigames. However, the character items put newcomers at a disadvantage. Bowser time is more frustrating than fun, and there's just a lot of unnecessary downtime that can make some games feel like a drag. I think that I'm going to give Mario Party 7 3 stars for beginner friendliness. It's not the worst entry point, but it isn't one that I'd immediately jump to if you're playing Mario Party with newcomers. If you do play with newcomers, I'd recommend that you play on Grand Canal or Neon Heights. They're the most newcomer-friendly boards in my opinion, and their mechanics are pretty easy to understand for new players. If you do play with newcomers, I'd personally suggest that you try using some action replay codes that remove Bowser time in single-player minigames. It'll make the game a bit faster and a lot less annoying. Mario Party 7 is a weird Mario Party game. It takes some of the successes and innovations that Mario Party 6 made and puts them into a new package with a lot of new ideas. Some good and some not so good. Mario Party 7 feels like it has both feet planted in 2 different canoes. One that wants to refine and streamline the good aspects of Mario Party 6, but another that wants to take even further risks, removing and adding new mechanics and seeing if they stick. The heart is here in Mario Party 7, but unfortunately the execution leaves a lot to be desired. Mario Party 7 is a tough game to rank. I think that it brings a set of really good minigames, well-designed boards, and some neat mechanics, but it's loaded with a lot of questionable design choices. Personally, I'm ranking Mario Party 7 behind Mario Party 3, but above Mario Party 2. Mario Party 2 has a pretty good item system, it has chance time, and it has some really good boards, but Mario Party 7 has stronger minigames, unique board rules, some good minigame modes, and a mostly good item system that is just held back by the character orbs. I don't think that Mario Party 7 is the best in the series. However, I also don't think that this is because it's too derivative of 6. Actually, quite the contrary. I think that Mario Party 7 arbitrarily changes things that worked perfectly fine in Mario Party 6 and didn't really address its shortcomings. If Mario Party 7 was less focused on changing and removing mechanics that worked, like bonus stars or chance time, and instead honed in on its good ideas like challenging skill-based happening spaces, I may be singing an entirely different tune. But regardless, there's still lots of fun to be had with Mario Party 7. On the next episode, we're moving over to the Wii for Mario Party 8, a console where Mario Party should feel right at home. Thanks so much for watching and supporting the series. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.